over the marketplace as people turned their eyes skyward. Fear. Nervous merchants hurried to pack away their goods, and worried mothers rushed their children inside as the smoke descended rapidly toward their houses. The plaza soon drained of people. Only one boy remained. Aladdin. "Aren't you scared?" said a deep voice behind him. Aladdin whirled. "It was only a cloud," he replied, wincing at the sight of the stranger wearing a black cloak. "I like your courage." The stranger moved his face closer to Aladdin's. "It makes me proud to be your uncle." Aladdin laughed. "I have no uncles. Your father was my brother. Perhaps he never mentioned me. I left home very young, but your poor father was always close to my heart." Aladdin hurried home and told his mother about the stranger who claimed to be his uncle. His mother's eyes widened. "I do remember my husband having a brother. Please hurry back and invite him for dinner." It was late evening when the stranger approached Aladdin's hovel, leaving a trail of black smoke in his wake. He was not Aladdin's uncle, but a magician powerful in the dark arts. But when he entered the house, he was a different man altogether, charming and gracious, effortlessly winning the hearts of Aladdin and his mother. The next day, the stranger showed Aladdin around the rich parts of Tabriz and insisted on buying whatever caught Aladdin's eye. For the first time in his life, Aladdin was dressed like a prince. Nearing noon, the stranger suggested they venture into the desert to find a place of wonder. Aladdin hastily agreed. They traveled all afternoon. As the sun was setting, Aladdin began to shiver with cold. His legs ached, and when he looked back, Tabriz was lost in a sea of rolling tubes. They reached two mountains divided by a narrow valley. The moon and stars shone above. "Here," said the stranger, "gather some sticks so I can light a fire." Once the fire was lit, the stranger threw some powder into the flames. Aladdin froze in fear as the stranger began to chant a magic spell. The earth shuddered and broke apart beneath their feet, revealing a steep stairway leading down into darkness. Aladdin tried to dart away, but the magician grabbed him and slapped him across the face. "Hear me, boy. There's a great treasure in this cave. Only a child pure of heart can enter, which is why it must be you. Inside you will find 3 great halls. Walk through them, but do not touch anything. You will reach a garden with fruit trees, through which you must pass until you come to a terrace. There stands a lamp. Take the lamp and bring it to me." Aladdin crept down the broken steps, his heart pounding with fear, when suddenly, right in front of him, stood the most magnificent cave. There were heaps of treasure everywhere, mounds of glittering coins, sparkling diamonds and necklaces, and trees glowing with all the colors of the rainbow. And there, at the very end of it, stood a tarnished oil lamp on a raised terrace. Aladdin frowned. All that fuss because of this lamp. He took the lamp from its stand and retraced his footsteps through the garden of glimmering trees. He realized that they bore no fruit at all, but green emeralds, red rubies, and enormous pearls. "Come here." Aladdin looked at the sinister figure of the stranger, standing menacingly at the entrance of the cave, his eyes glaring out of his gaunt head. "Give me the lamp, and I will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. And then I will go back to Tangier." as he stayed inside the cave, he was safe. Enraged, the magician shouted some dark words. The earth heaved, and massive rocks tumbled around Aladdin with a deafening roar. He took shelter under a boulder, clutching the old oil lamp to his chest. Seconds stretched into long minutes, and then the earth stopped shaking. Everything went dark inside the cave. All because of this lamp, Aladdin sobbed, polishing its tarnished surface with his palm. Without warning, a mighty gust of wind threw him backwards. Aladdin gasped as glowing blue smoke poured from the lamp's narrow spout. It rose into the air, filling the cave as it whirled into the shape of a gigantic man. "What is your wish?" the man thundered. My wish? I am the powerful genie of the lamp. I can make any wish come true. Please, I want to get safely outside this cave, cried Aladdin. The blue smoke thickened around Aladdin, and the earth groaned. When the smoke cleared, he was finally outside beneath the open sky. The sun shimmered above, baking the sand around him. Aladdin wept with joy. He turned his face toward Tabriz. For hours he trekked across the blistering dunes. His mouth grew parched with thirst, but he clutched the lamp against his chest and pressed on towards home. Many years passed, and Aladdin grew into a handsome young man. One day, the Sultan of Tabriz announced that everyone in the city was forbidden to leave their homes or open their shutters. The princess was visiting the bathhouse, and the sight of her was too lovely for ordinary eyes to see. But Aladdin loved taking risks and living in danger. Early in the morning, he hid in an alley across from the bathhouse and waited for the princess to arrive. For hours, nothing moved. At last, a group of maids appeared, and walking in their midst was the most beautiful girl ever seen, adorned in a flowing white robe. Her hair was black as onyx, gently framing her perfect face. Aladdin's heart sang at the sight of her. Months passed, but Aladdin never forgot the princess. One day the Sultan summoned to his palace all the suitors that were worthy of the princess's hand in marriage. Aladdin knew he could not compete with the mighty warriors and noble princes, but his heart was already hers. Unable to resist, he summoned the genie. "What is your wish?" roared the genie, rising in a cloud of blue smoke. "Build me a grand palace just outside Tabriz." At once, a mighty sandstorm obscured the sun, and when it subsided, there it was, a magnificent palace reaching to the sky. Aladdin emerged from the gleaming gates, and everyone marveled at him. He quickly set off for the Sultan's palace. The crowds that had gathered in awe parted before him. "He is a worthy man," the Sultan told his daughter, stunned by the sight of Aladdin's palace. "None of your suitors can match his wealth and power." That night, the princess kissed her father farewell and set out for Aladdin's palace. When he saw her crossing the sands, his heart melted within him. He ran to embrace her tenderly, and the stars shone more brightly as they watched. Aladdin and the princess were happy together, but the story doesn't end here. Far away in Tangier, the wicked magician raged when he discovered that Aladdin had not died in the cave, but had escaped and now lived in great honor and wealth. He left Tangier in a black fury. Even before he had entered Tabriz, he could see Aladdin's palace with its soaring turrets and gleaming golden roofs. "That is my palace," he cried. The magician bought some new copper lamps and waited patiently. Weeks passed. Finally, there came a day when it reached his ears offering new lamps for old ones. She gave the old merchant Aladdin's lamp and took home a shining new one, proud of the service she had done for her lord and lady. Outside Tabrizi's gates, the magician threw off his merchant's disguise and began to polish the lamp. With a powerful gust of wind, the genie rose in front of him. "What is your wish?" "Take Aladdin's palace to Tangier, with the princess trapped inside, and take me with it." Once again, a mighty storm rushed towards Tabriz. It enveloped Aladdin's palace in a thick cloud of sand, and when the storm subsided, the palace was gone. People cried in the streets. "Where is the palace?" wailed the Sultan. "Where is my daughter?" When he heard the news, Aladdin rushed home. All it took was one look for him to know who had done this terrible thing. Only one man was so powerful, the magician from Tangier. Sand flew from beneath his horse's hooves as he galloped across the endless desert dunes toward Tangier. Day and night he rode, his fury burning inside him. He was exhausted and sleepless when he finally reached the city gates. And there it was, his palace, rising tall and strong into Tangier's skies. Aladdin drove his horse through the streets. They were strangely empty. An uneasy silence enveloped the city. Tall, dark flags fluttered from every rooftop. Aladdin spied people huddled inside their houses, peering out at him with fearful eyes. A slow cadence of war drums beat in the distance. Boom, boom, boom. A chill shot through his body. He left his horse and slipped into the palace gardens unseen. On a terrace, there was a frown on her face. "Princess," he called to her softly. She looked down in surprise, and a smile spread across her face. "What is happening? Why is the city full of black flags?" "Oh, Aladdin, this is the work of a powerful Dark Lord. He's assembling a massive army with the help of a genie and plans to invade our beautiful city. We must do all we can to stop him." "I know him well," Aladdin said darkly. "Where's the lamp?" "He keeps it beside him all the time." Aladdin's mind raced. Like a ghost, he left the gardens and went back into the city. He searched frantically through the empty bazaar until he found one shop still open. By the time he left the shop, the war drums had intensified and a dark mist was seeping across the ground. He rushed back to the palace garden. The princess was waiting for him. "Tonight," Aladdin told her, "put on your most beautiful dress. Tell the magician that you wish to taste the wine of his country. Take this vial and slip its contents in his cup. It's a powerful sleeping potion." That looked more beautiful than ever as she walked down the hall towards the terrace where the magician stood, waiting impatiently for her. "Listen to the war drums," he roared. "Soon I will reign alone over the entire world." He summoned a servant and brought them wine in 2 cups. "This is a special occasion," the princess suggested. "It deserves the best wine in your cellar." With a satisfied grunt, the magician turned to give the order to a servant. Swiftly, the princess poured the contents of Aladdin's vial into his cup. "To victory," she cried, locking her eyes with his while the servant poured the wine into their cups. The sound of the drums thundered around them. The magician raised his cup and drained it greedily. Soon, his face contorted, and he glared at the princess as he collapsed to the floor. The magician was defeated. Quickly, the princess led Aladdin in through a secret door. He snatched up the lamp and summoned the genie. "What is your wish?" "Return my palace to its rightful place. this wicked man forget about me, the princess, and the lamp, dismantle his army, and return this city to its previous splendor and happiness. A raging sandstorm lifted the palace high into the air and sent it flying across endless dunes, faster and faster. The wind roared wildly around them until it abated, and they gently glided to the ground. Aladdin and the princess rushed to the window. "To breeze!" the princess exclaimed. "Home," Aladdin said. A lone rider, shrouded in dark, flowing robes, sped across the dark dunes. Aladdin. The swirling blue cloud that streaked above him obscured the moon. Around him lay the vast emptiness of the desert, dunes stretching ahead as far as he could see, a gentle wind skimming their crests. A large dune loomed before him. His horse struggled to reach the top, fighting against the rising desert wind. He tried to protect his eyes from the sand that slashed through his clothes. All of a sudden, the wind abated. Aladdin opened his eyes and saw in front of him two mountains divided by a narrow valley. The familiar sight brought back memories of when he was a little boy and had followed the magician all the way out into the desert to this very spot. "I brought you to the place where you first found me," said the genie, floating in the blue cloud. Aladdin laid the lamp on the desert sand. "I'm sad to let you go, but in the wrong hands you're too dangerous. You must return inside this lamp and be buried in the same cave where I found you." "Your wish is my command," agreed the genie with a respectful nod. For the last time, his gigantic form started swirling until it disappeared inside the lamp. The sand gave way and a chasm appeared in the ground, swallowing the lamp. It drifted gently down into the chasm, down into the very same cave that Aladdin visited many years before, past the glittering trees with all the rubies and precious gemstones, until it stopped on the raised terrace. The lamp had returned to its home. And then, whoosh, the chasm closed with a shower of sand. With a last glance over his shoulder, Aladdin turned his horse away and spurted back toward his palace and his beautiful wife, the Princess of Persia. As for the lamp, it is still buried inside the marvelous